And guess who's running his mouth again, Rodney? Your favorite super middleweight, Billy Joe Saunders.
Oh, man.
Now, once
Billy
again,
Joe.
we've been talking about this, and this has become kind of a trend on Rodney's show, right, where we are trying to educate fans on the business of boxing and basically saying this is not the way you, attract big-name opponents or big-money fights. This is a very surefire way of making them turn around and run in the other direction. So Billy Joe Saunders is once again shooting his mouth off, trying to get, attract opponents and trying to keep his name relevant in the social media. And he wrote this. Oh, this is just a little message to any super middleweight. Canelo, I've been waiting for you, as well as you know, and that one looks parked up. Callum Smith and Demetrius Andrade, let's get it on. Callum, you're a great fighter, a really good fighter, and it would be a great unification. I reckon we can get it on. But Andrade, you're just a little pussy who keeps running. You don't want to fight anybody, but let's go at 168 pounds, November, December. We're ready, boy. End quote. Rodney, if you're Demetrius Andrade, if he calls you a pussy in public, do you want to make this gentleman a couple of $1 million in the ring, or would you look to fight anybody else in the division?
You know what? If I'm, these fighters now, man, they need each other more than ever. Under normal circumstances, I would be like, tell Demetrius, especially, when Demetrius wanted to fight him, a year and a half ago, a year ago, or whatever, and the fight got canceled because of BJ, whether he took supplements or whatever it was to cause the fight to, get derailed. But at this point, they need each other, and if I'm Demetrius, I'll tell Eddie Herron, say, look, sign it up, let's do it and everything, because at this point, these guys need to fight. And there's no need to kind of keep, holding them back and waiting for something bigger or a mega fight. I would say, Demetrius, tell Eddie Hearn to make it happen. I really would.
You know what? And considering the financial landscape, what's going on in both America and the UK, I can't refute any of that, Rodney. And for that, you get the War Week round of applause.
Woo!
That is very well stated, and to be honest with you, Demetrius, regardless of how he feels about this loudmouth idiot who's consistently getting himself into trouble, right? You just have to sign on the dotted line and roll the bones and see how it turns out. In my opinion, though, Rodney, this is the last fight, stylistically, that I'd want to see at 168 pounds. Two prolific southpaw counterpunchers just looking at each other in the center of the ring, waiting for the other man, waiting for each other to let their hands go. Who's going to get off first? Who's going to take the lead? This is a fight that would rival Chris Bird versus Devaro Williamson touch of sleep for the worst fight in the history of boxing. In my opinion, it would be like watching paint dry.
Right.
Could you see Demetrius Andrade uncharacteristically taking the lead just to try and beat this guy's ass?
Well,
that's what it would take.
That's what it would take. But at the end of the day, I think Billy Joe, he wanted to be the darling of that weight class, and even to be the darling of the promotional banner. And as I said, man, his career is kind of stalled. And to me, we clearly know the pecking order, as far as Canelo. Then you have, I would say, Andrade. I would take Callum Smith over Billy Joe as well. So he's kind of lost his luster, to be honest, though. He really has. He's kind of lost his luster, in my opinion, by being so inactive. And, the other guys just seem to be performing a little bit better at this stage of their career. But as I said, though, under normal circumstances, I would tell Demetrius, or I would advise him, to tell him to go F himself and just be done with it. But as I said, though, you know, these guys are being so inactive, man, for such a long time. You know, you might have to kind of just change your disposition and go ahead and just get him in the ring and kind of, you know, see where the chips fall.
Yeah, to be honest with you, brother, and BJ Saunders, he's one of those guys that, you know, there are some guys who talk smack, and it's funny, it's entertaining. Like Adrian Broner's one of those guys. Floyd Mayweather's one of those guys. Teofimo Lopez is one of those guys. It's comedy. It's comical. And we love to hear it. Even Gennady Golovkin, when he talks his broken English, it's entertaining and it's funny. It's almost endearing. BJ Saunders, not so much. He is an a-hole, man. I mean, this guy is a scumbag. I mean, he really rubs everyone at every press conference I've ever seen him at. He rubs everyone the wrong way. He is his own worst enemy. If I were doing PR for him, I would tell him to shut the hell up and let me do my job for him. Because I'll never forget, in the final press conference for his fight against Willie Monroe, poor Dan Raphael, and this is when he was still working for ESPN, poor Dan Raphael asked him a question about his weight. Has it been a problem this time? Because we know, making weight has been a real issue for you, both at 60 and now 68. And Billy Joe Saunders smiles and looks at him and goes, "Boy, you have a lot of nerve, man, asking me about my weight, fat man. You look like you need to put down some jelly donuts, man. Don't be asking me about my weight." And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so terrible. Like, Dan Raphael is just doing his job, and that's a legitimate question. Can you believe how BJ Saunders answered that guy? I mean, you and I both know Dan Raphael, right? And he's not the most pleasant guy in the world, but does he deserve that kind of treatment for just doing his job?
No one deserves that kind of treatment. But, Billy Joe, he takes pride in being an asshole. But, again, I don't think he has he doesn't have the professional accomplishment to where he can be an asshole and then, people can maybe overlook it. I mean, to be quite honest, though. So, as I said, he's trying to prove himself outside the ring, validate his status, say things, talk trash, But as I said, it doesn't fit him. It doesn't really come off as comical or just entertaining like a Floyd Mayweather or like, some of other boxing, top trash talkers. You hear him trash talk, and it's just kind of a turn off. So as I said, man, really, to me, on the zone, man, I think he's taking it personal that he's not really the darling of that weight class. So when you have Canelo, you have the Andrade, you have Callum Smith. I mean, BJ, man, I mean, to be honest, the past, 6 months or a year, man, I really have kind of, somewhat forgotten about him as, for the most part. So he's trying to prove himself and go, he's trying to drum up support for a fight. But as I said, man, he comes off, though, I mean, as an asshole, and it's just not really, pleasing, in my opinion.
No, you're right on the money. He is a vile, detestable man. And, yeah, it's not entertaining. It just comes off being rude and disgusting. So, yeah. Now, Demetrius, on the other hand, that is about as funny and as jovial of a guy as you'll ever meet in the sport. It's shocking that, it's shocking to me that he's not a bigger name. He's such a funny guy in person. You talk to him, and every single time we used to have him on the show, it was hilarious. And when you meet him in person, he's that same way. And he backs it up in the ring. He's a great guy. He's just made some, bad promotional decisions in the past. But let's hope he gets everything rectified. And, BJ, please let the Geico Lizard, please let the Geico Gecko do your talking for you. Please let Eddie Hearn do it for you because, yeah, you're turning a lot of people away from the sport. Jeez, that's the last I'm going to say about it.